Hey everyone, and welcome to the Audit Guidebook. Today, we're going to dig into a really critical part of any audit, risk evaluation. This is where we go from just making a long list of problems to actually making smart, strategic decisions. It's truly where the science and the art of auditing come together.
You know, as auditors, we can end up with this massive, long list of potential risks. But let's be real, we have limited time and resources. We can't audit everything. The real trick is to focus our energy where it's going to have the biggest impact. So in this explainer, we're going to break down exactly how you transform that huge list into a sharp, focused, and powerful audit plan.
And just so you know where we are, this explainer fits right into our Module 1.2, which is all about risk identification and assessment. It's the logical next step after you've identified and analyzed your risks.
So let's get right to it. You've done all the hard work, you've identified tons of risks. Now what? How in the world do you decide which ones really matter? Where do you focus that limited audit time? That's the core problem we're going to solve today.
Well, the answer is a process called risk evaluation. Now, the formal definition is that it's the process of comparing your analyzed risks against established criteria. But what that really means is this is the step that turns a simple list of worries into a strategic game plan, making sure our efforts are aimed right where they're needed most. Okay, we can break this whole thing down into three distinct phases. First up, phase one, assess and prioritize. Think of this as laying the foundation for all the big decisions we're about to make. This phase has three key steps. First, we'll review the results of our risk analysis. Then, we'll compare those risks against some specific criteria. And finally, we'll figure out how significant they are and actually prioritize them. So let's start with step one, reviewing our analysis. The big word here is validation, right? Before we can even think about evaluating a risk, we've got to be absolutely confident in our data. Is our assessment of its likelihood and impact still on the money, or has something changed since we first looked at it? And you can see how this plays out in the real world. For a bank, you'd ask, hey, is loan default still a high-impact risk? For an NGO, you'd wonder, did those new controls we put in place actually lower the risk of donor fund misuse? It's all about doing a reality check on our assumptions. So, once we're confident in our data, that brings us to step two. And this is all about context. See, a risk isn't just significant on its own. It's all about how it measures up against what the organization is willing to handle.
And this is where two really crucial concepts come into play: risk appetite and risk tolerance. Think of risk appetite as the organization's big picture strategy on how much risk it's willing to accept to achieve its goals. Then risk tolerance is more tactical. It's the specific, measurable amount of wiggle room it has around that appetite. These benchmarks are basically the yardsticks we're going to use for measurement. And when you do that comparison, it naturally leads you right into step three, prioritizing the risks. By seeing which risks are blowing past the organization's tolerance level, you suddenly get a very clear hierarchy of what needs attention right now.
This table really brings it all together, doesn't it? For the bank, credit risk is way over their tolerance, so it's a high priority. But for the NGO, procurement fraud is now within tolerance, maybe thanks to those new controls, so it's a medium priority. This shows you exactly how we go from just a list to a real prioritized action plan.
All right, so our risks are prioritized. Now we are ready for phase two, evaluate and decide. This is where we look at existing controls and really start making the call on what gets audited.
This phase boils down to two key steps: considering how effective the existing controls are, and then deciding which risks are actually going to make it into the audit plan. Step 4 is a super important checkpoint. I mean, why would we commit to a full audit if there are already great controls in place that are effectively managing the risk? We have to check that first.
And you can see here just how much of an impact this has. Weak controls, like the NGO's weak fund oversight, basically scream, audit me, and drive the risk priority up. But strong controls, like the bank's solid credit review process, might lower a risk's priority, maybe even to just monitor only. This all leads to the big decision in step 5, selecting the risks. Based on everything we've gathered so far, the audit team now handpicks those high-priority, significant risks that are going to form the backbone of the annual audit plan. So for our examples, the final selection might look something like this. The bank focuses on credit and IT systems, the NGO zeroes in on donor compliance and financial reporting, and the manufacturing company targets its supply chain and inventory. See? Each plan is now custom-built around the highest priority risks we've identified.
Finally, we get to phase 3, formalize and approve.
All the tough decisions have been made. Now it's time to get it all on paper and get the official sign-off.
The last two steps in the whole process are to document and communicate our findings, and then get the plan formally approved and integrated. Step 6 is all about transparency and creating a clear audit trail. Documenting your rationale is absolutely essential for communicating effectively with management and the audit committee, making sure they understand why you're focusing where you are.
This table is a great example of that final documentation. It brings everything together in one place: likelihood, impact, control effectiveness, and the final audit decision. This creates a clear, logical, and defensible reason for every choice we've made. And that brings us to the finish line, Step 7, formal approval. The proposed audit plan, backed up by all this thorough evaluation, is presented to the audit committee. Once they give it the green light, it becomes the official mandate for the internal audit team for the year ahead.
And the end result of this whole 7-step process? A robust, risk-based annual audit plan. This ensures the audit team is focusing its precious resources on high-impact areas and that its work is directly tied to the organization's strategic goals.
Okay, so let's wrap this up by quickly summarizing the strategic impact of this entire risk evaluation process.
This table is a fantastic little recap of the whole journey. It shows that logical progression, from validating data way back in Step 1, all the way to getting an approved annual audit plan in Step 7. You can really see how each step builds on the last one to create something solid and defensible.
So why does this matter so much? Well, it ensures that risks are measured against the organization's actual risk appetite. It forces us to focus our limited resources on the most significant issues, and maybe most importantly, it elevates the audit plan from just a compliance checklist into a truly strategic tool that adds value.
Thank you so much for joining us for this deep dive into risk evaluation. We really hope you found it valuable.
To keep building your expertise, please go and explore the other explainers in our Module 1 series on the audit planning process.
And if this explainer was helpful, please do us a favor and like it and subscribe to the Audit Guidebook channel. Your support really helps us create more content just like this. We'll leave you with a final thought to chew on. Whether you're studying or working out in the field, what is the most significant unaudited risk facing your organization? It's a powerful question to reflect on. Thanks again for joining us.